America is a nation with a sense of history. A nation that honors veterans of our past wars. Today, as our way of life continues with few sacrifices or interruptions, let's remember that right now, in Iraq and Afghanistan, our servicemen and women face death every day.
But there was a spark. Next thing I knew, I was on fire.
My Humvee was engulfed in flames.
As I reached in, it blew up in my face.
And I was laying inside of that. My guys had no idea that I was in it, in that fire.
I couldn't move my legs, didn't have any sensation down below my chest.
I recall lifting my arm up like this and watching the skin drop off my hand and my arm.
Because of advances in medicine and technology, more of our troops wounded in battle are surviving than ever before. These survivors are returning home with severe disabling injuries, more so than in any previous war. Safe from the bullets and bombs, America's heroes and their families face an uncertain future. This is their story.
How was people going to look at me? And that was basically the toughest thing I had to deal with.
He couldn't lift a glass of water or pour his own water. And there were so many tubes and everything, it was difficult for him to do a lot of little tasks.
My wife gave up her job, packed up our house, and she come down here and had to leave our kids there with her mother.
You're pretty much guaranteed by law a job back with your former employer. Well, I don't have a former employer. I was my own employer, so that's cut into my pay by not being able to produce like I used to could produce.
It's a story many don't want to talk about. As government resources become more and more strained by the swelling tide of injured veterans.
All right, we want everybody to have a lot of fun in here tonight.
I'm just trying to be a father, raise a daughter and a son.
For injured soldiers, returning to civilian life can seem like a series of insurmountable obstacles as they struggle to find the right medical care, manage on a reduced budget, adapt their homes to accommodate disabilities, and seek employment. The burden also falls on spouses, forced to become full-time caregivers.
My wife and I have both learned that there's opportunities for not only jobs, but other services that can help you to get to that job or career field, whether it be starting a business, maybe learning how to run a business properly, schooling that's available.
There were even sporting events to challenge participants to expand the limits of what they might believe possible, and to realize that ultimately anything is achievable.
Good job.
Somewhere you got to rise up bigger than your injury, and instead of that injury making you serve the injury, you make the injury serve you.
The start of a new chapter, assured that their road to recovery would no longer be traveled alone.
These people gave their lives so that people in this country can live the way they do. I mean, it only makes sense to me that people would help them now that they need help.
The reason we are convened here today is to promote the hiring of veterans because it is good for business, it is good for the economy, and it's good for our society. I'm delighted to be working with my friend and colleague, Mr. Evans, and I'd like to now recognize him for any opening remarks that he might have.
I want to express my thanks and appreciation to the Organization of Veterans Across America.
Wes Poriotos, who is chairman and co-founder of Veterans Across America, a nonprofit organization that works as an advocate on behalf of veterans seeking to help them compete for quality employment. In 1994, at the request of the Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Wes and a colleague undertook a landmark study of the employment status of a group of veterans who had transitioned from the military since the end of the first Gulf War.
We have an opportunity, a rare opportunity, to ignite the fuse on the first great social movement of the 21st century, a veterans' social movement. We should brand the veteran, and we should create a demand for this competitive resource. We must build an equally powerful engine, a branding, supply chain, and software engine to propel them into the workforce.
Ms. Poriotis, thank you for your vision and for your testimony and for energizing this committee the way you have and Veterans Across America. As you know, we're working on legislation right now that would basically be a Veterans Across America bill.
We applaud Veterans Across America's initiative to reach out to corporate America with a campaign that encourages the hiring of veterans.
The economic powerhouse that is America is cast from the refined ore of a unique quality, whose attributes veterans have in abundance: initiative, drive, teamwork, commitment, motivation, energy, and talent. And by virtue of their military background and the leadership, self-discipline, and responsibility it imbues, I am convinced that there is absolutely no better training for the rigorous demands of the business world.
In what other aspects of our society do 20-year-olds maintain multi-million-dollar tactical aircraft, drive billion-dollar nuclear submarines, or operate and maintain $100 million precision weapon systems on land or from the air?
The challenge I see, Mr. Chairman, is a word called translation. When somebody tells me that we're going to interview someone from Stanford or MIT or Berkeley, or has worked for one of our competitive companies, I can immediately translate what that potentially means to us. When I hear that there is a veteran coming from the war that is an expert in weapons systems, I can't translate that to what that would mean to me and to PeopleSoft. And I think that's the strongest issue. Because when you really climb in to see what a weapons person does and what they've been trained in, they are probably one of the world's foremost computer-skilled people. Yet we can't translate that.
The Business Roundtable is firmly behind this initiative to help our uniformed men and women find jobs here at home in America. The bottom line is our military develops leaders, individuals who possess a strong work ethic, who have the resourcefulness so critical to innovation and strategic thinking, and who have a culture and a history of getting the job done.
The fact remains that unemployment among veterans, especially among younger veterans and minority veterans, remains higher than the national average. With over 200,000 veterans transitioning out of the military every year, there are still far too many veterans that have difficulty finding that first private sector job.
Military veterans are a diversity model of this society, since they do represent all demographics of this nation.
So I would come up with a very simplistic goal. I mean, the goal that I wrote to you about was out of your employee applicant base, people you're going to interview for jobs, I, as CEO, Human Resources Director, want you to make sure that 5% of them are today's veterans. That's a very easy goal to achieve, and as life will have it, we're in the private sector very vertical, and when the CEO waves that hand, things happen.
When we think of diversity in its broadest sense, we believe that veterans should be included in that net, recognizing that they are another historically underrepresented pool of talent and brainpower.
The chairman of my bank is Jackson Moore. Mr. Moore served on active duty in the United States military, holding the rank of captain in the United States Army and the Army Reserves. Mr. Moore is in sympathy with the committee's direction in attempting to create a pool for veterans to be employed in quality jobs throughout America's workforce, instead of simply a push of the veteran into the workforce.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ray Healy. I'm Executive Director of Veterans Across America, a nonprofit initiative that helps veterans, especially wounded and disabled veterans, compete for quality employment. Our mission is to help transitioning veterans and prior service military get access to good jobs in the private sector. Our modus operandi is to persuade top HR executives and hiring managers that veterans have the skills and talents, indeed the right stuff, to become superb employees of those companies. I co-founded Veterans Across America with my friend and colleague, Wes Poriotis, a longtime champion of veterans who did a benchmark study of veterans' employment in the mid-1990s for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. After Wes presented this study to President Clinton, Clinton advised Wes to form a nonprofit to address the many problems that veterans were experiencing in trying to transition into the private sector. This nonprofit was the Center for Military and Private Sector Initiatives, of which Veterans Across America is the main program. Our Veterans Across America team did a congressionally mandated and Department of VA-sponsored study of veterans employment in 2006, which uncovered many of the realities of why companies either do or do not hire veterans for quality employment. The main findings of this study became the foundation for our latest initiative, 6 Months to Success, which will be a series of regional veterans employment conferences / boot camps, which we will stage around the U.S. during the next few years. At each one of these events, we will bring together hundreds of unemployed veterans, with a particular focus on wounded and disabled veterans, as well as the scores of companies in each region eager to hire these veterans. We invite all unemployed veterans to go to our website, www.veteransacrossamerica.org, and register there. Thank you.